So welcome to Speed Side Up. We're just about getting ready to launch this and waiting for Gaurav to join us. Welcome all the viewers. So this is just a candid talk we're going to have with Gaurav and see what all happened at his time and what all happened at our time and rallying and what, just some personal stuff. Nothing serious. So guys, enjoy yourselves and hi Gaurav, can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, super.
Finally.
Finally. So coming back to that question, your mom has been pretty much part of your journey in motorsport, and she's been a great supporter of yours. Obviously, she probably was the happiest to shift to when you shifted to cars. But going back, tell me some interesting stories between you and Rohitas and Sandhu and Nippy. I mean, I need to know, did you guys do some street racing on your bikes and what all?
Yeah, we used to do the dumbest shit actually. We used to do really stupid things on the road. In fact, while we were going for one rally, it was in, I think in Cochin or somewhere, and we were riding down to the rally, and we were doing some testing and practice, and we were coming back from the practice, and we started, pulling wheelies on this empty piece of road in the forest. And we said, okay, let's see who can pull the longest wheelie. And actually, the two of us, we actually fell off while doing wheelies. We overdid it and we fell, and we felt so stupid that we were like factory riders and, professional riders, and we were like lying on the piece of the road, in the middle of the road, and like, what the hell are we doing? We destroyed our bikes while going before the rally. So we've done some really, really stupid things. And also trying to, always find empty patches of dirt and any empty park that we used to see, we used to go in, and there used to be so many times that we used to get chased out by locals with lathis and some rocks.
Okay, so now that reminds me of another story. I don't know whether you were part of it, but did you guys chase Mr. Chima, your team manager, in Delhi somewhere? It was...
No, Mr. Chima was a lovely guy. He loved taking care of us. He loved to give us really nice T-shirts, and his caps were his favorite. So he used to come to every event and he used to say, these are your favorite T-shirt and your caps, in Punjabi. And, that was a fun time to be with him around the team. And yeah, he was a great guy. So
I remember one story, Rohitas telling me that he pulled out a danda while you guys were following him in some bikes or something, and then suddenly he didn't know who you guys were.
There were so many instances. I think we literally got thrashed and beaten up by villagers, by local, herdsmen. A lot of people used to get their cows to graze in the fields, and we used to just keep looking for fields to go test our bikes. And every time we used to go, the cows never liked that sound of the bike, of a two-stroke engine.
Yeah.
And the cows used to go really mad, and all the villagers used to come hunting for us and used to start, hitting us, pelting us with stones and hitting us with their lathis. So basically, we used to get lathi charged every other weekend.
So another story I hear between you, always had great respect for you bikers, because you never had navigators, you never had, comfort of sitting in the car initially. And Rohitas and Sandhu, I remember doing a recce for Mountain Challenge, and all of a sudden. Sandhu stops and he tells Rohitas, wait, this stone was not there yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, because, as a biker, you have to be so, smart about where you are going to land up with your wheels, your front tire, when you go over a jump, what is going to be the correct line. And we used to actually look for markers, everywhere. And as riders, we used to be like, the next time we used to come, we would be like, hey, this wasn't there. We used to, identify small stones, as you said, so it was always damn funny that, and we used to actually, sometimes during recce, we used to put these stones for guys in the back just to scare them away, and, just to, basically pull a prank on them, and to put some fear that these big stones and big rocks have come. Then we used to tell them later, no, we used to do this because we used to go hide on the side of the trees or something. So riding was absolutely so much fun because it was like a big family. If you used to win it, everyone used to party. If you used to crash, everyone used to come and meet you in the hospital. So it was like a big party.
Okay, so now you got to tell me the truth. There was some more stories that since you guys used to wear helmets and you actually changed riders in between, and you actually sometimes when you didn't take part in a rally, you actually sat down on somebody else's bike with a helmet and his time card, and it did a few stages, and I know there's something like that, so don't.
I haven't done it, but yes, some people have done all this kind of stuff, and it's damn funny that I really don't know whether I should take names or not. But yeah, I know some people who've done something like this, where actually they've taken somebody else's bike and put his riding gear in his helmet and gone riding because he didn't feel like riding and he felt like he could win the rally or he could do better than him. And
What?
people used to do all sort of crazy and wild stuff back then and ride for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, through whatever weather. Nobody cared about anything but riding. It was like a religion.
Okay, so coming to that disguise, I have another story for that South India rally. At one point, the South India rally went into Karnataka, and the transport stages were really, really long, really long.
Yeah.
And I know my teammate. I wonder if I want to name him, whether he comes online and acknowledges it. He actually used to have his service team drive the car back to Chennai, and he used to sit comfortably in the car in his fancy air conditioned car, and actually he got caught as well. So he got pulled up by the stewards.
I know what you're talking about. Anyway, coming back to South India rally, I don't know if you remember, my first rally was the South India rally, and I think your last rally was probably the South India rally. And if you remember, I've never seen so much rain, I think, in my life in India, in the INRC.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember one instance when you were leading the rally and your old dear friend, Mr. Vicky Chandok, and you had a big fight going on to try and win the rally. I think you were leading then. And
Yeah.
so we had a rule, obviously, because the stages were next to the tarmac, if you remember. And
Yeah, it was around the racetrack at the MMRT racetrack.
Yes. So I think that was one of the last stage or one penultimate stage, and it was there was so much water that we actually thought of cancelling the rally, but then everyone said no, let's go for it, and suddenly we came out to the end of the stage, and I think he had pulled like a minute on you or something in some 10 kilometers. So everyone was wondering how did Mr. Hari Singh got beaten by Mr. Vicky Chandok by over a minute in like 10 kilometer stage. So why don't you tell everyone what happened?
No, actually, during the briefing, the regulation said that you had to make sure that two wheels of your car had to be on the tarmac of the racetrack, and you could put two wheels off the tarmac. But it had rained hell of a lot, so there was less water on the tarmac, and you had better traction. So I, like a straightforward guy, I did my bit and went through amazing amount of water. I'm surprised we actually got to the finish line, and at the end, I realized that Vicky had made a little time on me and actually won the last rally of my career in India. But obviously,
I remember that time. I remember that day because that was my first rally and I won that rally. And that was the first time I drove with you guys in the JK team. So that was a big moment for you because obviously you wanted to win the rally. But, anyway, I mean, that was something which was
good fun.
Not done.
He was, I couldn't say anything actually. I couldn't do anything as well because he was our guru, he was our master, and we really looked up at him because everything was done from his garage, and all improvements on the car were done. So I was wondering if I went against him, maybe my car got slower the next time around. So we left it at that.
I remember you still went on to have dinner and beer with him in the evening.
Like coming to that, Gaurav, I mean, those were good times. We used to rally. At the end of the day, it used to be party. Whether it was MRF and JK, the rivalry was intense on the road. And whether it was Leela, Nick Hill, Dicky, all of us really had a good time. Especially, I have to say this because the North Indians really enjoyed their party part, whereas the South Indians actually stuck to the serious stuff, and the cars were always done by the South, and the garages were all the technical stuff was all down south, and the drivers mostly came from the north, and which made a fantastic combination. Just like mine with Curry and PNR Satish, and then Vicky.
And me and Leela now.
Yeah, you and Leela now. So it's a great combination that we have in India.
No, I'm very lucky to have seen your side of rallying, which I really, which I loved. the 90s and the 80s and stuff, and the way you guys used to rally. It used to be one big party, you know.
Yeah.
Like I even remember that how everyone used to travel in the plane and pull pranks. I remember one time when I don't know whether it was you or Dicky, my uncle, and I think Manik was sleeping on the plane or something, and somebody tied his shoelaces together while he was sleeping, and when he got up, he tripped.
We actually had to be alert while sleeping in the planes because shoes used to get whacked, and they were actually found on the conveyor belt when you collect your baggage. So quite embarrassing with the air hostesses looking at you walking bare feet and stuff like that. So you really had to be.
Oh, I know. I can imagine. You know what? I'll tell you one instance. Damn funny. I went to see. I think it was Cochin Rally.
Yeah.
Popular. Sorry. So how it's I think everyone knows that it's called the Popular Rally for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And so that was probably one of the first rallies that I saw in 97 or 98. And I went with my uncle Dicky Gill, and so I was sleeping in the room at night, and Dicky, my uncle, was sleeping on the other bed.
No, you know.
And as usual, all these guys would get pretty drunk and pretty wasted 2-3 days before the rally. I used to ask him, like, do you really come to rally or do you come to party? Because I always thought rallying was a very serious thing to do. Being a driver was so serious. And then suddenly I see in the middle of the night at like 3 or 4 a.m., I don't want to take the gentleman's name, but it's a very, very close friend of mine who used to be a chief mechanic for Dicky, and even he was a part of the JK and the MRF teams also. He was so drunk that he couldn't find the washroom, so he was actually taking a piss in the middle of the beds, thinking that that's the toilet. And me and Dicky got up, and Dicky started abusing him, in Punjabi. And he was like, what the hell are you doing? Get the hell out of the room. I've got a rally to do tomorrow. And he was like, you really want to do rally? Come on, we'll have a drink. so, I was like, is this like the scene? Am I going to become, one of these guys when I grow up to be a rally driver?
Yeah. No, popular rally really brought out the best in us, because actually it was one of my favorite rallies as well, because the location was fantastic. I really used to enjoy the seafood, and our hotel was one of the best. The Taj Malabar was fantastic.
How come I've always heard stories of in coaching and around the Popular Rally only, even with you? Coming back to Popular Rally, I've heard that you've had one of your major and the biggest crash of your careers. Am I right there?
Absolutely. It was a crazy crash. I'll come back to that. Yeah. The Popular Rally, the airport used to be right next to the hotel, so we used to actually land. It was a fantastic airport runway to land straight off the sea and onto the runway. And then 5 minutes across was the Taj Malabar. And the rooms, the top floor, the 7th floor, used to be all reserved for the JK Tyre team, whereas the MRF guys stayed in the casino, which was about 5 minutes drive. And the casino had the best seafood restaurant. So whenever we were fed up, we would actually go across to the MRF guys, feast on the seafood, and and there was no limit on the budget for MRF guys. So Nikhil.
So you would sign on the MRF bills, I'm sure.
No, we didn't sign on the. Dicky, Nikhil, and all signed for it. But yeah, we all used to end up having a great time in the evening. And the 7th floor, room number 701, was actually a room where had 2 windows. It was a corner room, and you could see the Marine Drive on the right, and all the fishing nets on the left. So, and all the ships going past into the harbor as well. So it was a lovely room. And that was always,
party room.
Party room. I used to call up the manager there that we're coming a couple of months before. That's my room. Don't give it out to anybody. So that was interesting. And of course, the boat, I still remember, Patri Manal.
Yeah.
That was the boat the Taj owned. And we used to book that boat for the party. So whether win or lose, as JK's policy was, we still had to booze. So the rule was with Hardy that if we won the rally, the party would be on Hardy, and if we lost the rally, then we'll all pull in and we'd still end up having a good time in any case. I remember one evening we used to take off on that boat. We used to organize a band, the DJ, everything on that boat. And the Taj property, the manager was really, really supporting and used to accommodate a lot of our requests. We actually used to take dinner on board, which they didn't allow at that time. I don't know about now. And so first we used to go out and have a drink on the high seas. And while we were having a drink, all of a sudden, suddenly there was panic. and Farad jumped off the boat in the high seas. He just dived off. And suddenly everybody, all those who didn't know Farad really were worried. Hardly was one person said, "Oh shit, what the hell has happened? This is an MRF guy. I'll be ready. Tony Rodriguez will catch me. Where is he?" And not knowing that Farad was a national swimmer, And, you stopped the boat and eventually got Farad back on. So those were the crazy things that happened on that boat. Then
crazy bunch.
at that time, Alliance Air used to fly us in to Cochin, and we had a few friends who used to fly at that time, and they flew us into Cochin, and they had to spend the night overnight because it was a night halt for the crew. So in one of the rallies, popular rallies, the crew actually joined us on the party.
Wow.
And the captain had a medical checkup the next couple of days. And he was desperate to get off the boat because we were trying to get him drunk. So the boat had not actually docked next to the hotel, and he jumped, man. He did a jump, and he was quite heavy. I remember he was a big guy. And he ran to his room to save himself, for his career was at stake. And the next morning, Nikhil was on the PA system in the aircraft. It was an early morning 6 o'clock flight, and we guys all on the flight, and he says, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Alliance Air," he actually announced, "welcome on board. The crew has really had a tough time. They've been great sport and stuff like that." And the crew was looking at each other.
Nikhil, I don't know if he's on right now or not, but Nikhil was a wild guy. Nikhil and Dicky, for all you guys who don't know, Dicky was my uncle and Nikhil was Nikhil Taneja. They were guys who were really at it. They loved each other and they hated each other. I think that was the story that they shared, if I'm not wrong. And they used to actually bet outside my house, our house, a long time ago, and decide who's going to flip the gypsy over quickest, and whoever does that quickest basically buys the beer or something like that. That's how crazy these guys were. They would. This is way back in the late 80s or the early 90s, and I used to be like, I always, and then at that time, Dicky, my uncle, used to. I used to meet him obviously a couple of times a week, and every time I would go to his house, he would show me these WRC videos, on the cassette player. And he used to show me what pendulum is, how to do a pendulum. Like these are the WRC drivers, these are world championships. And I used to look at him. I'm like, well, you're also a professional driver. You're with Team MRF and Team JK Tyre later on. He went on to. I'm like, you guys party more than you rally. So is that how you become a WRC driver? Like you go to party, then you do INRC, and then you become a WRC driver? I guess I had to learn that. So he told me, yeah, you have to learn how to drink a lot. See, you're a Sardar, you're a Punjabi. If you can't drink properly, then you're not a real Sardi or real Punjabi. That's what he used to tell me.
So Dicky on his day, nobody could beat Dicky. Coming downhill, he used to be the fastest, and we always used to say, I mind my language, but he had decent nuts. He had decent nuts, and sometimes they were made of steel. So
I believe he was the fastest downhill.
That's what you need to be a good rally driver as well, apart from.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a combination. You know it better than me.
Okay. So, we had a lot of other really combinations. I remember one incident where Farad, it was I think the Karnataka 1000. There was a lot of fog, and Dilip Desai in his Contessa was parked. Was it a Contessa or was 118 NE? I think it was parked just in front of the time control to check in. And I don't know if a lot of people know that Dilip Desai used to really shake his head a lot. And Farad came in from the back and he actually hit into him and he actually went into the time control. So there was a big argument and saying, what happened? So Farad said, oh, I thought you were moving. I saw your head moving. I thought you were moving. He actually hit into it. So these are really some old stories.
That's what I keep telling a lot of the guys, including my friends Sunny Sidhu. I mean, you're very close to him, and Sandeep Sharma here in Delhi. So I keep telling them, that you guys are not sane anymore because you've been driving these gypsies for about 2-3 decades. So the damn thing bounces so much that everything is now on loose. So don't expect So I'm like, you should be lucky that you're walking and your spine is still intact, because the way that thing bounces, it's just unbelievable. And now I can imagine when you're saying that. I'm sure after driving the Himalayan rally or something, when you guys used to do it for days and days and hours, I can't even imagine how what your body would be going through, you know, and
Yeah.
your mind and everything, because it's not easy, first of all, to drive so many kilometers. That too without any suspension. I can't even imagine doing something like that, because I've driven the Gypsy and I drove it only once in the Desert Storm, and I promised myself that I will never ever go back to driving a Gypsy again, because I thought that that's something which is completely destroying my driving, and it's not going to make me progressive. It's definitely going to keep me way back. So it was very, very hard to you know, keep doing that. I'm sure, you know, you guys were, you know, I think it was purely love, wasn't it? When you
Absolutely. No, so going back to those days where seatbelts were not compulsory to even drive around, you know, they were not an important thing. And so when you used to get into a rally car, we actually got our 4-point seatbelts, 5-point seatbelts. And even in those, one was not used to keeping them tight, because you were not used to being stuck in a seat which you're supposed to. So I'm saying this from experience, and I've actually had a back problem which is emerging now because of this, because I had my seatbelts loose so that, you know, you could do whatever you want. As you thought you were comfortable driving, that's your driving position or style. But with all the jumping around in the Gypsy, it's actually affected the back later on in life. So,
I'm sure it did. Yeah.
And then later on, when you started keeping the seatbelts tight, you actually started enjoying driving a lot better, and you felt a lot safer, and especially when you're rolling. And coming back
especially
to
when
rolling,
direction changes, you'll have more control on the steering wheel, because you won't be bracing yourself.
Yeah,
because the seatbelt is supposed to do that.
But with the Gypsy, there was nothing of the sort. The steering was always good.
I think you guys used to just keep chucking the wheel like this.
Yeah,
Because there was so much delay.
There was no line as such in a Gypsy. You know, you could just go for anything.
There was no driving like this. I'm sure there was like this.
Yeah, we were forever. Yeah.
So you had some really strong arms.
Coming back to your question on that Cochin rally, that one of our, you know, a couple of crashes that I've had, and Cochin has been one of them. And we were, you know, we had a flat tire and we were running a little behind sked, and actually I borrowed a few tires from Sammy. These were tarmac tires which he used to import for his car, and I put those on, and believe me, the car just felt that it could do no wrong. It was like driving on rails. So you know, by every kilometer I was pushing the car harder and harder, and really enjoying myself. And but there came a time, it was third gear flat out, a right-hander, where I lost out and went straight and wrapped myself around a tree. But this is interesting. You know, you normally, all our drivers, I'm sure it's the same with you, we always normally hit on the navigator side. We never hit on our preference. So Gaurav, now you've been part of both. You know, you've seen both our time of rallying and now rallying, you know. So what do you think is the difference now?
Well, I think, you know, when you guys were rallying, of course, you know, most of you're the main guy who made a career out of it then, when nobody thought it could be a career. But and you know, I think that the equipment level was a little low compared to what we have today. The rallies were a lot longer, so you had to really plan. It wasn't 100 kilometer or 150 kilometer rallies. I think they were 1,000 kilometers rallies or 500 kilometers rallies. So so you had to pace yourself and you had to take care of the car, because, as I said, you know, you were driving machines which had limitations. So as I'll give everyone an example that you know, that Hari's driving level was here, whereas the car or the Gypsy or the S-Team that he drove was here. So he had to come down to the level of the car to make sure that it finishes, not the way we guys drive now. So for example, if I drive my WRC2 car now, the level of the car is probably here and my level is here. So it's not like a massive difference. So of course I can brake the car if I want to within 1 minute. But still, I'm trying to just say that the car will last days and hundreds of kilometers without even going for service if you drive it, you know, sensibly. But for you guys, I think, and it was more of a, I think there was so much more passion, there was more love for the sport. There was everyone genuinely loved it. It wasn't like people were not in it because they wanted to post a photo on Facebook or on Instagram, what most of the people do today. So if, for example, anyone had an issue with their cars, or even like when I started riding in 99, 98 on the motorcycles, like if I would have an issue on my bike, 5 people would stop to help me. I'm sure you also stopped to help other teammates or even rivals if they were in any need. But today, even if you have a severe crash, nobody's going to stop because they're more concerned about their stage times.
True.
I sincerely think, that it's all about, feeling the sport from, inside. You still love it, and that's why you're still good at it. That's why people who don't love it, they just do it for a reason. Not because they love to do it. That is why we guys are still doing it, and that's why you're still so good.
So now, from the Indian scene, you've also had great exposure in the WRC and the international scene. So can you compare the two and give us some light on your international exploits?
Oh well, yeah, I would love to, but I'll ask you a question. I just remembered something that what you did long ago. I don't know if a lot of people know about this or not. That you went to WRC Australia in one of the events, and was that in 99, 2000? If I'm
No, that was 95. That was 95.
Are you looking at the pictures?
Yeah, I've seen my number plate there, my rally number up there. So my number was.
And you did that event in a Esteem, which was the Esteem in India, but it was this real Swift back in Australia, which was basically an Esteem for everyone else with a hatchback, correct?
Hatchback, correct.
And 2 doors or 4 doors? 2 doors.
This was a 2-door one.
2-door, yeah. So it was a 2-door hatchback, but looked like an Esteem from
the front,
three-wheeler and the front,
Yeah, I mean, I was very,
same question what you said. Yeah. That, how hard was it, you tell me, when you actually went into the stage after all the WRC cars went by in your small little Swift? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the Langley Park was the super special, and that was my first exposure to competition internationally. So we did pretty well there. So because it was a pretty laid out track, and the next we went into the stages. Now, I would say, hindsight, that was a wrong rally to choose as a first international event because it was a very, very slippery rally. Stages were, Australian Perth.
Very fast.
The stages are fast and they're ball bearing stages. You can actually fall when you're walking. When you're walking, you can actually fall. So you got to be really good at your driving. And it was very challenging because keep the car on the track was almost impossible.
Yeah, and I actually went the cleanest line all the time.
Yeah, and at the start of the stages where the timing was, where they gave you the countdown 10, 9, 8, it was painful getting my front wheel drive to go because all the 4-wheel drive cars had made all the ruts. Tram lines, they used to call them the tram lines. And I used to go, I used to play that I just get past this section and then I'll manage the rest. So eventually, by the end of it, even the marshals used to tell us to go back about 30, 40 feet and come up with and you cross the line exactly the time when the light goes green. So great learning. And I have to say, Niaz Ali from the Himalayan Rally Times, and our very veteran old rally driver who migrated to Perth, was our host, and he really took care of. He was instrumental in me going to Perth. He was pushing JK to send people across, and he said, "I'll take care of everything." So he organized everything, and was fantastic. And we stayed at his house. He did everything. The cost at that time was also humongous, and with whatever budget we had from JK and whatever money we had, so big help. So that was my exposure into a WRC event back in '95.
For all you guys, just a quick input on how when the WRC cars start, we have these launch controls, and generally these launch controls, depending on car to car, they start at a minimum of 5,000 to 6,000 RPM, and some of the S2000 cars and the older World Rally cars would start at 8,000 revs. And imagine some over 3 into 400 bhp. we generally go down into ruts which are at least 12 to maybe 20 inches deep. Am I right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
of course, the four-wheel drive World Rally cars would just shoot out like that. But if you're in a front-wheel drive car, there's no way you'll come out. You have to start at least a couple of meters, 3 to 4 meters, or maybe 5 meters behind the start line, because there's no way you're going to come out of that. You'll be stuck in the ditch.
True, true. Okay, Gaurav,
Yeah.
another question. Just a little personal one. How come Shilpa ended up with you? You being a crazy driver, she being a doctor, a dermatologist, coming, from where did that fit in?
Well, obviously, me and Shilpa just celebrated our 9th anniversary a couple of days ago. So not only me, I'm sure even you, we've spent more than half our lives in the southern part of the country, and going there so often and meeting and making so many friends. I met Shilpa, and I would have never thought that I'm going to end up marrying somebody from the south. And likewise, with her, she never thought she's going to end up marrying a Punjabi or a Sardar. On top of that, she could never imagine. She's a Telugu. So when I saw her, I was like literally love at first sight, and I was like, no, now this is the girl that I want to marry. That's it. So I actually went behind her and pursued this whole thing, and convinced her and her parents to marry me. And initially, when Shilpa told her parents about me, and then she said, "Oh yeah, he's a driver. He races." So the parents thought that actually, what is she getting married to a driver? Is he just a driver? So then she had to explain what a rally driver is, and they were like, "Yeah, that's okay, but what does he do? Is he an engineer, doctor, or a lawyer?" She was like, "Oh, this is what he does." And yet again, they said, "No, that's okay, but that he does on the weekend. But what does he do from Monday to Friday? Does he go to the office?" So it was really tough. But yeah, we made it happen, and we've got 2 boys now.
So was there an interview with your father-in-law? Did you have to actually say?
Actually, yeah, there was an interview with the whole family, and I went alone by myself. And Shilpa's grandfather, who's generally heads the family, then he asked me, "So why have you come alone? Where's your mother? Where's your family?" And Shilpa said, "When you go inside, there are only men sitting there, all her uncles, father, grandfather's cousin." So she said, "Don't drink in front of them, and don't have whiskey. I'm sure they're going to offer you, and they're going to ask you. They want to see how much you drink, or if you drink at all." So I said, "Yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to have a drink with them." So when I went inside, they said, "Would you have a drink?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" So she was looking. She was sitting outside, and she was like, she was staring at me, and she was like, and I said, "It's okay." So I had a drink with them. And then when the grandfather asked me, "Where's your parents, your mother?" I said, "I have to marry your granddaughter, and I'll take a decision. Why should I get my mother?" And I think that won them over, and they were like, "Welcome, to the family." So pretty
The
much
Punjabi confidence.
Absolutely, yeah.
Confidence.
I was just being myself and being a Sardar and a Sardi and a Punjabi, that's all. So I said, this is how we are, and why not?
Okay. And what about your mom? She was pretty okay with it right from the beginning?
Yeah, my mom didn't really understand. I think it was a major shock to her rather than anything else. She thought I'm actually joking, trying to get married to a South Indian girl. And then later on, she was like, "Really? Are you seriously getting married?" Because when I told her, "Yeah, well, let's get married on this date, Mom. So what do you think?" She said, "Are you seriously getting married?" But she won't even know how to speak Punjabi. I said, "It's okay, it doesn't matter." That really doesn't matter anymore.
Okay. So here's another perfect example of the brawn from the north and the brain from the south. So
yeah,
what the kids obviously will benefit. What have your boys gone on?
They both obviously love cars. Being boys, they love cars and bikes, and all day they're just riding their bicycle. Even now, they're riding downstairs and playing soccer and just trying to get something to drive. My older one's 8 years old, and he's already karting. He's driving pretty well, pretty impressive. But I'm trying to have him concentrate more on the study part right now, and he can get back into his studying routine, because that's what's lacking. I guess that's the problem with all of us
So
here.
I can visualize another Leela coming up, with driver come technical and build your own car and drive it as well, or a Karivardhan, or so many of the guys down south who were fantastic drivers as well as technicians.
You never know.
Technical sound.
Yeah, you never know. So there are a lot of questions here. Why don't we answer some of the questions? There was somebody who asked that what is the difference between rallying and racing in terms of financials and logistics. Of course, rallying and racing are two different things, but sometimes in rallying the costs are higher, because if you go into rough rallies and something like Turkey, what we did just recently with Team Jeketaya, and these rallies are extremely rough, so you obviously break a lot of parts, you chew up a lot of tires, you put a lot of stress on the car, so it can be more expensive than running a racing event. But then again, it entirely depends on what kind of racing you want to do, whether it's Formula 3, Formula 1, it can go up to crores and crores and crores per season. And Hari being the manager, managing the rally team, he knows how costs are involved, and there could be some extraordinary costs sometimes in even racing also. Obviously, racing can be more expensive. Like Formula 1 will be more expensive than WRC, because obviously it's got so many rounds, so much technology, etc., etc. My favorite is obviously rallying. Kabir, I'm more of a rallying guy, but I still race. I can race. I'm not saying I'm the best racing driver, but I can race well enough to be in the front grid, which I just did recently at the recent championships in December held in Delhi. The cup, and I mean, same question for Hari. He's had great experiences in racing. Why don't you tell them about your racing?
Kabir, racing, yes, I did some racing. In fact, did a McDowell 1000 racing at the Chennai racetrack back in '92. What I didn't like about it was people all, crashing into you and cutting you across corners. I'm the kind of guy who likes to be on my own and set my own pace and let everybody else, literally follow. Unfortunately, I was not in the front, and I couldn't let everybody follow. But rallying, yes, better preferred than racing. But coming back to your favorite, I actually enjoy off-roading a hell of a lot more. So, I started off with off-roading as a kid. We used to go hunting with my dad, and I used to drive the Jeep as young as, when I was 10 or 11, and learned all my off-roading there, and then eventually got into rallying. So would love to spend more time with you, and especially now that, the competition is, I won't be able to do any more really good competition, but off-roading is what is coming up in the near future for me, and we need to get that going a little more.
So coming back to off-roading, you remember when you and me were setting up the great Mahindra Great Escape in
Jaisalmer, or where was it? Manwar.
Manwar. And that was the first time for all of you guys that I went to drive in the desert. I think it was in 2005 or 6, if I'm not wrong. And obviously, Hari's been driving the desert for forever, and he has a lot of experience. And he took me along with him, and he said, "Come, I'll show you how and what the desert driving is." And it wasn't a competition or anything, so we had to go set up the Mahindra event, and so we had basically these Mahindra Jeeps, the MM540s, and kind of Jeeps. And we went on to the desert, and so I had a Jeep, he had a Jeep. And then we had a local guy, his name was, do you remember his name?
No, I seem to forget right now. Alex? Was it Alex?
Huh?
Alex?
No, I'm talking about this villager. You know this villager?
Yeah.
You remember that instance?
Yeah.
He put me to shame, and even like you have struggled a lot also climbing the dune, do you remember? And he would just
I remember.
Dune. And I was like, what the hell? And he was making fun of me. He used to tell you.
He was the local.
Told you that. Yeah, he was a local guy, and he told you that, oh, you told him that I'm one of the best drivers in the country, you know, and I'm going to be one of the champions. And he said, अरे ये आपका champion कैसा है? इससे तो टीले पे तो गाड़ी नहीं चढ़ती. कौन सा champion लेके आए हो आप? That was the first time that because I really underestimate the desert so much, and I was just over revving the Jeep so much that I couldn't climb. Even I probably had 10 attempts to go up the dune. And then I finally sat down and I told him, why don't you go up and down again and let me see how you drive. Then I learned the way he was driving, and it was such a trip that I still have full memory of that day. You know, when I couldn't do what he did. So
So they've got crazy amount of experience, and they would do things in two-wheel drive, whereas we would go into four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So he was the driver for the resort, Manwar Resort. So he was forever, farming in that area. He's grown up in that area. He knew each and every bit of it.
Absolutely.
Gaurav, coming to, you've been fortunate, and so have I been fortunate. Mahindra Adventure, which is now from Mahindra. Mahindra's been part of our lives. I think my life as well. As much as what JK has been, doing great escapes with them and organizing routes all over initially. And then Mahindra Adventure and Bijoy brought out this Mahindra Adventure, which is a big boon for motorsports. And they have big dreams as well. And tell me something more about being part of Mahindra Adventure as far as the rallying team is concerned.
Well, a massive thanks to Bijoy, who's spearheaded this whole campaign, and we've come through such hardships that getting to first of all get a car which is the XUV 500, which is meant for not meant for rallying, but it can be used for off-road sort of like deserts or raids. That's a good format for the car to be used for. And Bijoy said that he asked me, he said, do you think that we could use this car for the INRCs or the deserts and stuff? So I said, yeah, why not? If you give me a car that can last long and won't break, I'll ensure that I'll take it to on the podium. We've had a fair amount of good luck and some bad luck in the long distance rallies. Like we won all the Dakshin there, which was long distance rallies for days and days. We used to drive without any issues. But in Desert Storm, we've had some sort of small technical issues. Last year, I was leading the Desert Storm for a bit briefly, but then we had some issues. So I had to drive on two-wheel drive, and I actually finished the whole event in two-wheel drive, pretty much digging myself out of some stuff. We just had one small issue, and that haunted us through the whole rally. Yeah, if it wasn't for that, we could have won the rally by a good margin. And anyway, coming back to the INRC, nobody actually expected us to even be on the podium during the INRC events, because everyone was like, oh, how is this big car going to be going to turn or drive around in the small Nasik hills and the ghat sections. From there, people started saying, I heard rumors that, oh, this is like the best car to buy now, because this car, because Gaurav sits so high, he can see everything better than everyone else. So this is how people used to talk. And they used to say that the XUV is so big and the wheels are so big that it will never have a puncture, and he cuts across mountains and he does shortcuts and he does, I don't care whatever people say. We went on to win pretty much everything and all the rallies. And we had such a dominant season in the past that people literally thought that this is the car to buy to go rallying in India. And, then from there, we, jumped our ship to the new XUV 300, which is our new choice of weapon now, which is ready for this year's INRC. And it was just, actually, I would have just tested it on 20th March, in fact.
And you're on some good rubber now.
Absolutely, yeah. We got some special rubber which is being made by you and the factory, which is actually going to, for everyone else to know that it's going to be at spec with the World Rally tires, the WRC tires, 3 tires. And we're trying to develop those tires for this car. So because this car is going to be over 200 horsepower with a sequential gearbox. So watch out for this one. It's going to be mega quick. Officially, I think this will be the quickest car ever seen in the Indian Rally Championship. Of course, apart from the Evos and the R5s, which
Okay.
are completely
Another
different cars. But
another quick question, Gaurav. Another quick question. You took part in the X1 Racing League last year in Delhi. What's happening about that? Any idea?
well, it's a great concept by Arman and Aditya. They've really put stuff together to make it happen, and I've been hearing that they've been trying to do it for a couple of years, and then finally managed to pull it off. It was a good concept. I think the only drawback was at the last moment. I think they had some issues with the cars, which people thought that were going to be different to what we got. But apart from that, it's a good concept, and it's great to see so many drivers from different platforms, which I thought was an amazing thing. Like me from a rallying background, and there was somebody who was from GT car racing, and there was somebody who was from Formula 3, then there was somebody who was an ex-Formula 1 driver. So different genres, different completely, disciplines of racing, rallying, all bunched up together to do one thing is to win for their state. So it's a good concept. I hope it comes back soon and it can be bigger and better with faster cars and with some more corporate help.
Well, let's hope Arman and Aditya get it together again. And I think I agree with you. It's a fantastic platform, and it'll give boost to a lot of people and aspiring F1 drivers to get
Absolutely.
the exposure that they need to. We are really getting late into the show right now, Gaurav. So I saw a question from my very, very original teammate, Prithvi. He says, tell us what happened when I broke my leaf spring and tied a chain and brought it back into service. Prithvi, those were the days you could do all this. You find a chain, try holding on, tie the diff through the knuckle or whatever and get the car to service and then actually do all the repairs and get back onto the road and go win the rally. So, you've seen photographs of me with Bittu sitting on the bonnet without coming into a service park without a wheel and, all sorts of stuff. But today, rallying has, as Gaurav says, become very competitive. The stages are just about 100 kilometers and, one flat tire and you're, out of contention to be on the podium. So on that, I know we should be wrapping up. But before I wrap up, Gaurav, I think every Indian here who's interested in motorsport and who's linked to it wants to know when are you aiming to go for the Paris Dakar? And I know there are some talks about it and between your existing sponsor Mahindra Adventure and you've even approached us as a JK as a sponsor. But where does it stand now? And do you think you have it in you to really go for it?
Well, yeah, for sure. The Dakar is something that is completely different from what I do. But no longer Dakar is something which is what people think in India is that it's not something which you're going to drive slow for 11 days and finish. That's not happening anymore. Most of the Dakar drivers are top WRC drivers now, and they go flat out every day, every corner for 11 days, and then they win by seconds, not minutes, not hours. It's all coming down to seconds. That means you have to be on the limit for 10 hours a day for 10 days and ensure you don't break the car. So that's so difficult because you have to be so smart and so focused all the time, mentally and physically, to do something like that. Yeah. So cutting it short, yeah, Mahindra has been a great, supporter of me for so many years. Bijoy and me, we're always trying to do something out of the box and take our brand to a different level. So I'm hoping that we can pull something off soon, and of course with JK Tires as our partner if everything goes together. Apart from that, yeah, the Dakar will be my aim very, very soon, and something should happen. And apart from that, coming to an end for this topic, a lot of people have been asking me about my drifts and my rally school. So quickly on that, my rally school is going to come back very, very soon. In association with JK Tires, we'll try and have all you guys come over and learn the art of rallying. And also, well, as far as drifting is concerned, I just learned drifting myself because I started driving rear-wheel drive cars at a very, very young age. Very powerful cars. I was lucky enough to have some friends who had some powerful cars. So drifting is all about. Again, it's something which is a completely different style of driving, and it requires a lot of precision driving at very, very high speeds, and it's something that please don't try it on the road. If you have an empty parking lot, just try there. Otherwise, it's not a good thing to try with traffic or with people around you. over to you.
Thanks, Gaurav. It's been a fantastic time chatting with you, and
Yes,
look forward
absolutely.
to seeing you in person and in action. And until then, stay safe, stay home.
Yeah.
All the best, guys. And thank
See you
you
soon.
to everybody for
Thank you,
logging
everyone.
in.
Thank you. We'll catch up soon.
All those who've logged in, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.